Well, in 2003, they say that a football-sized object craft hovered over the Vandenberg Air Force Base. And I guess this was discussed in the House of Representatives hearing on UFOs.
Yeah, there have been many of these. I mean, some of them are the size of football fields. I mean, remember our new whistleblower, the Marine, who came across a man-made one in Indonesia during that earthquake and tsunami in 2009, Michael Herrera. He and his 5 platoon buddies came across a man-made one that was as big around as a football field is long. And there were special operators, black operators, forces there, and they were transporting human slaves and weapons. And so there's a huge human enslavement, trafficking part of these covert programs. That was man-made. When it took off like a spark off of a grinding wheel. It hovered, made a transformer sound, and then boom, was over the horizon instantaneously at thousands of miles per hour. That is man-made. So, and he is willing to testify under oath to that. And he's in touch with his 5 platoon buddies. Now, they were almost all killed. He's one of the few people I know who stumbled across an operation like that involves drug and human trafficking that these covert programs are doing that have not been just shot and killed instantly. And the reason he thinks he wasn't is that there was a whole operation there from his ship that would have heard that and seen they were missing. And so they let them go, but they threatened to. They put guns right to their heads and took their weapons and took everything. So I have heard these accounts many times. So one of the big problems is that these covert programs, there are some really rogue elements of them that are using these advanced technologies that look like a alien spacecraft, a UAP, in human trafficking as well as in drug running and arms running. And that is a big source of income because it's all in cash. I have a man who was at Dugway Proving Grounds, a huge remote site in Utah, where the largest underground base is. And he said that all transactions in this sector that he worked in, and we have the name of the sector and its location, was in cash, all cash. And a lot of that cash is coming from these sort of clandestine and illegal activities.
Well, what I don't understand is this. When you look at air travel, I took a plane yesterday from Los Angeles to New York. It took approximately 5 hours. When you look at air travel technology, it hasn't really progressed very far from like the 60s.
Right.
I don't know, maybe in the 60s, it might have taken an extra hour and a half at the most.
No,
but essentially, flying a plane in 2023 takes about as long as it did 50, 60 years ago.
Correct.
So how could you say that there's this technology where air travel could go at the speed of light or instantaneous or so forth, and yet this huge multi-billion-dollar airline industry is still using 1960s technology?
Because they're not allowed to use this technology because it's been kept extremely secret, and anyone who tries to move it forward is killed. I mean, this is not hard to figure out. If people are naive in thinking that a group like this doesn't use lethal force, I have a bridge to sell you in some swampland in Florida. This is nonsense. I mean, these are ruthless. One of the things that Mr. Grush said to me partway into his journey in this, he was still undercover before he came out publicly in the previous year. He says, these guys are thugs. And I had warned them, and I had warned his superiors that you're dealing with some of the most thuggish, criminal, violent sociopaths you will ever deal with who run these projects. And that's what he said. And he's right. So, there's sort of this Bambi-like, imagine something 1,000 times more lethal but high tech than the Gambino crime family or the cartels in Mexico running these programs. Get your mind around that and you'll begin to get close to what you're up against. So, no airline executive or aerospace company is going to march these technologies out. Do we have them? Yes. Are they allowed to be disclosed? Absolutely not. What we're advocating for is that the matter be disclosed, the things that fly be kept classified, but the energy systems. See, this is what we advocate in The Lost Century, that this documentary we just released, is that those technologies that would end poverty and at least fix pollution and all these other problems, and also energy independence. Every village and house would be energy independent, right? Because you're not getting energy from external. It's a device sitting there, looks like a heat pump, running your house, your car, or whatever. Those technologies need to be out 100 years ago, right? Now, I do, as I said earlier, I think things that move at that kind of velocity, obviously, anybody could figure out, you can make that into a weapon delivery system.
Well, there's a lot of other ufologists outside of yourself. And one of the more known ones is Bob Lazar.
Yes, now, I've met him.
Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting figure. He claimed that he was hired in the late 80s to reverse engineer extraterrestrial technology. He supposedly worked at a secret site called S4, which was near Area 51. He says he's examined alien spacecraft and read U.S. government briefing documents that describe alien involvement in human affairs over the past 10,000 years. Now, in general, people have dismissed him. Part of which, he has a bit of a criminal record.
Yep.
In 1990, he was involved in a prostitution ring.
Yep.
In 2006, he was arrested for selling illegal chemicals. Journalist Ken Lane states a lot of credible people have looked at Lazar's story and have rashly concluded that he made it up.
And that's why when we did the disclosure project in 2001 and the most recent one, we have not included that testimony because, number one, we need corroboration of it, which we've never been able to get. Now, remember, this information I'm giving you, it isn't from one source. Often there are a dozen people who have explained the same thing, who aren't knowing each other, aren't in collusion, have been in different commands or different locations. So we try to do that very carefully. So someone like that, I can't say it's true or not true. There's been no one who has been able to corroborate it. But here's something I can corroborate. S4 is real. S2, Pahut Mesa, Groom Lake. We have a current whistleblower who for several years worked in that area, and another one who was there around the same time dealing with the ET issue as well as the man-made AT, advanced technology anti-grav craft. Some people call those ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles. And so is there a compound and an underground DUM there, deep underground military base there? Yes. Does it deal with this issue? Yes. Now, beyond that, the other specifics of what he's related, we haven't been able to confirm.